My question is, India is growing, is one of the fastest growing economy in the world, but still we are ranked very low in terms of the countries to do business in. And sustained economic development, in my view, cannot be attained unless and until we reach a higher position in that ranking. Since you have worked both with the government and the corporates, what's your view on this?
Yeah, that's a very major failing of our country, that anybody who wants to do business with us, it's not easy to do that business, because you remember I talked about nurturing business, incubating business growth. Unfortunately, we start putting the roadblocks first, and that is got into our culture. So we have not inculcated a culture of business, of encouraging business. There are a large number of factors, because a huge amount of distrust seems to have grown between government and business and business, over whatever has happened in the past, in the last 5-6 years, cronyism and things like that. So you are absolutely right. If India has to grow and grow rapidly, we will have to introduce a culture where ease of doing business gets established. We have greater trust among business and government, and business and public, and government takes on the role not so much of a regulator as it needs to become a facilitator. That is a major lacuna of this nation.
Good evening, sir. My name is Siddharth. Sir, in your speech you spoke about in India the political executory, the influence that the executory has on the judiciary system in India. Now, in the US, we find positions like the Attorney General, where the FBI and the judiciary basically reports directly into them, thereby reducing political influence on these particular factions. So, can some system of that sort be introduced in India, or maybe enhance the power of the Chief Justice of India to actually act on behalf of only the courts without any influence by the political bureaucracy in the country? In your speech, you spoke about the effect of the political bureaucracy has on the judiciary, and the fact that it's not able to make decisions because of the influence of the bureaucracy that is present in the country. In the US, we find the Attorney General being responsible for things like this, like the FBI, and the judiciary comes directly onto them. Do you think the Chief Justice of India has to be empowered to actually handle something like that?
No, I don't think, or if I did, I'm sorry I communicated wrongly. I didn't say that the political executive exercises any kind of influence on the judiciary. It does not. The judiciary in India is totally independent. Judiciary in India has all the space that it requires. Why the judiciary? Take an institution like where I was, the Controller and Auditor General institution. The political executive does not exercise any kind of control upon the CAG's office. Nothing. We had all the space to do what we wanted to do, and covertly or overtly, nobody tried to influence us in whatever way. So, as far as the Chief Justice's powers are concerned, the Chief Justice today has all the powers that any Supreme Court anywhere in the world has. And the very fact, I think I gave this example early in the afternoon when I was speaking to some other group of students, the very fact that the Supreme Court could pass a verdict saying that any politician who's been criminally convicted for a punishment exceeding 2 years will be ineligible to stand for election again. It hurt a large number of very prominent politicians. But the Supreme Court had passed that verdict, and nobody could check it. They tried to introduce a bill in Parliament, but it's not been passed. But the Supreme Court did do that. So to that extent, I think each of these pillars of democracy that we have, the judiciary, the legislature, the executive, are independent of each other and have the space to function independently too.
Thank you. That will be all. I request our chairman, Dr. Ramdas Pai, to present a memento to a distinguished speaker, Shri Vinod Rai. Thank you, sir. It's an honor to propose the vote of thanks. Nothing can describe the grace and affection of our chairman, Dr. Ramdas Pai, who is a continued source of support and inspiration. Thank you, sir, for always being with us and also to have graced this occasion. Thank you so much. It was indeed exciting to listen to Sri Vinod Rai on a topic that commands attention in India, and I'm sure will continue to do so for a very long time. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful and thought-provoking address today, and I assure you we will cherish this for a very long time. Thank you so much. A word of gratitude to our beloved members of the TAPME Trust and Governing Council for their guidance and affection for all of us. Thank you for being there. Thank you, Dr. Natarajan, our director, for time and again ensuring that we at TAPME and Manipal are fortunate to listen and interact with distinguished people from all walks of life. Thank you, sir. A very, very special word of thanks to Mr. PKH Tarakan, advisor MEMG, and Mr. MN Ramurthy, advisor MEMG, for your support. Thank you so much, sir. A word of thanks to all my faculty and staff colleagues at TAPME for their continued support. We at TAPME deeply value the support of the press. Thank you for covering this event. A word of thanks to Syndicate Bank for allowing us to host the 16th leadership lecture in this beautiful hall. Thank you all invited guests and Manipal University for your support and participation. A very big thank you to one of our friends, Mr. Somnath Das, for being with us and for all the support. Thank you, Somnath. We appreciate it. Finally, a very strong word of appreciation and gratitude to the future of India and the ambassadors of TAPME, our very own students. Thank you so much. Thank you all and good night. We come to the end of this event.